There we go. Okay, so we already I know we got a couple of guys who've just joined, but welcome everybody. So today this is our agenda for the team. So yeah, you're good, Christine, right there. We're good for this hour together. It's just going to be super focused. And that way, again, this is basically an attempt for us to make sure that everybody kind of knows what ArdhiHome is all about, who we are, and how we can service you moving forward. So we'll have a few quick polls. And it's a conversation, it's not a lecture. So, feel free to jump off mute, get off the camera, I mean, come on camera, kind of ask a question here and there. We're pretty fluid with how we'll move forward today. And hopefully by the end of it, we'll have answered a few questions for you, and then we'll share like a free legal due diligence guide. And of course, we have Ben here today who will provide some pretty good advice of how, to protect yourself as a buyer. And so if we go to slide 3, so truly the reason, we're all here, we understand that there's a huge problem in Kenya, and so the problem is the trust deficit that exists, and we all are aware of that. And so buying property back home from abroad, which where most of us are, should be, it should be a dream. It shouldn't be something that is crazy. Shouldn't be something where gongwa or somebody the transaction goes wrong. But unfortunately, some of those dreams, turn into nightmares for some of us. And so, the $5 billion that, diaspora folks send back home, that's a lot of money. And we have thousands of fraud cases that occur every single day. And so that fear is deep. And, when you speak to different folks, especially out here in the diaspora, people are definitely scared of, being able to kind of send money 8,000 miles away just to get defrauded. Because, we do work hard for our money. And I think some folks take that for granted back home, and assume that, literally wake up and go pick money off trees over here, which is not the case at all. So if we move to the next slide, um, and unfortunately, what we see from the market, and part of the reason we started the company is that, these are just not rare horror stories, where it happens here or there. They're actually patterns, so people who are really talented at kind of defrauding people and scamming people are all over the place. And, unfortunately for diaspora buyers, we are the targets, because again, we're here, we rely on word of mouth, we rely on our family members, we rely on our friends. And so things can definitely go off the rails very quickly. And so I think some of the real prevalent things that happen back home, you have, the four things that we listed on the side here. You have the fake and forged titles. And unfortunately, this is more of like an Africa thing because I know we have some folks from different parts of Africa. We've had conversations with them. And so these are problems that are just endemic to Africa. And so we're hoping if we can solve this in Kenya, then we can continuously grow into other regions of Africa and kind of solve the same problem. So you have issues like double sales, you have the offline scams. We have some folks who have paid money, the down the payments and deposits to off-plan situations where 3 years later, when it was supposed to be finished 3 years back in the past, 3 years later, they're still waiting on that particular offline to be done. So those are the things that we know exist. Those are the pain points that we know you're going through. And so the good news is every one of these problems is definitely preventable. And that's the whole reason that ArdhiHome exists. And so go to the next slide, please. So we have just a quick poll here for all the folks. Just about let me run this real quick. So the question we have, as it says here, what worries you most about buying property in Kenya from abroad? Because we want to get a pulse of where, the pain points are, and then we also want to make sure that we are definitely hitting on the right spots when we go ahead. So take a couple of seconds just to kind of fill this out, maybe a minute max, and then we can, just review that with you guys and move forward from here. Oh, nice, nice. 20 seconds, 20 seconds. Okay, we got some more participants. Okay. Oh, wow. Okay. 7, 6, 5. Any more takers? Any more takers? Nope. Okay, we'll close it there. And these are the results from the group. So the fake titles or phantom properties. Oh wow. And then a close second would be trusting the right agent or developer. And then, of course, sending money home safely and managing the process remotely. So the good news is that you know, that's pretty much all we're here to do. That is why we exist, all right? And so I'll stop sharing this and continue. That is why we exist at ardhihome.com. And so the reason we built this particular platform, we don't want to compete as another classified platform where you just post anything. Anybody can come on there, say that they're an agent, they post a listing. Unfortunately, that is the case with some of the other players in the game. But for us, our mission is absolutely different. And we want to make sure that we're protecting you, the buyer. So the way we built the platform is, so when you come on the platform, you're here to everything that you see is legitimate. Everything that you see comes from a verified agent or a verified developer. And so we want you to know that ArdhiHome is a trust engine. So we do not want for you to have any ambiguity when you jump on the platform. The only thing we want you to think about is, is this the right property where I need to spend my hard-earned money? And so we really want to fight to be the most trusted place to buy and sell property in Kenya. And we recently are also, as a company, a licensed ERB registered agency. And we have Sheila, our director here, who is our anchor for our ERB certification. We can talk a little bit more about what is the ERB certification, what does that actually mean in relation to perhaps like the realtors here in the United States, and why it's a very big deal for us to actually go the route that we're going. And so if you go to the next slide, so these three pillars exist, and this is our promise to you. Everything rests on these three. We verify every listing before it gets on the platform, every agent before they sign up on the platform, every developer before they provide any of their listings on our platform. And we guide you as RD Home from end to end. And we make sure that we enforce this very guideline. So back to the previous point that I mentioned, we are so small, we're so new, we are very strict. And so if somebody has a bad experience with a particular agent, let's say they defraud you, for example, we will absolutely name them, we'll name and shame them. We will go to the government, the ERB, the board, and actually report them. That way, this does not happen before. And then, of course, with the help of our lawyers, such as our Ben, for example, we'll make sure that, we litigate this thing to the maximum extent of the law. And, of course, as part of the due diligence, we want to make sure that you have all those contingencies part of your contract when you sign that before actually engaging with any of these clients. And so we'll remove any bad agent, even if it costs us, quite honestly, because that is the discipline that we want to move forward with. And that is, fortunately for us, the upper hand that our competitors just cannot do because they go on volume, volume, volume. And so I hope that as we continue to kind of grow this platform, we'll continue to show that, the value is there. And, when you engage with us, you're trusting a company that, truly cares about your well-being. And we can move to the next slide. And so, these are just not renders, what you see on the screen right here. These are not promises. These are real delivered homes. No Kilifi is not a home, but this is where real families live right now. So when I went to Kenya a couple of months ago, most like a month ago, I went to visit the Lukenya Superior Homes Development. Absolutely beautiful, absolutely stunning. It is a master plan community where, these folks have 20 years of a track record and they're doing amazing work. And so they'll actually provide a little bit of a teaser towards the end of this call about, what they're working on, some of the projects that are out there and how they can support you achieve your dreams of buying some properties back home in Kenya. So again, every listing that you see, every piece of property that you see, every development that you see is something that, we ourselves have vetted, and if we go to every single site, we would. And if you do want us to go to any site, we will go there for you, do some video calls. When you're on the ground, you can go with some of our agents, most likely Sheila, to kind of showcase exactly what you're going to buy. And we are a zero pressure company. We want to make sure that you're matched exactly with what you want, because your hard-earned money is, again, something that we care about a lot. And so we can move to the next slide. This one is a pretty fun little slide where you guys get to meet the team behind all this work. And that way, it's not a one-man show because we are definitely operating in different time zones. And so I'd love you guys to meet my team. And that next slide right there will kind of, do a quick introduction. So my name, if I have not introduced myself so far, I think I haven't, is actually Kuya Machanja. I am the founder and MD of ArdhiHome.com. And again, this is definitely something that we want to achieve as a collective with providing safety systems when it comes to purchasing property in Kenya. So we'll just go around the horn, maybe 10 seconds. That way you can get to meet the faces that will be working behind the scenes to make this dreams a reality for everybody. So we'll hand it over to Sheila, and then just again from left to right, bottom left to right. So Sheila, please.
Thank you, Priya. Hi, everyone. Good evening, from wherever you are. My name is Sheila Gishangi. I'm the Director of Compliance and Licensing with ARB. I'll be talking shortly. Thank you.
Thank you, Sheila.
Hello, everyone. My name is Dusa Tengu, known Kuya for quite a while. I'm the co-founder here at ArdhiHome and also the Chief of Technology, as well as the one behind the analytics that's driving our platform. I'll be talking to all shortly.
Thank you, Dusa. Christine.
Hi, I'm Christine O'Cage, the Chief Marketing Officer for ArdhiHome. Excited to embark on trust because that is our biggest challenge as somebody who lives in diaspora and also lived in Kenya for a significant amount of time. So excited to just get to know the market and build something that can bring value to all of us.
Thank you, Christine. Beatrice.
Hello, everyone. It's great to be here. Thank you so much for those who've joined us. It's extremely exciting for all of us to get started on this, and we hope that we'll bring value, we will build trust, and we hope to work together as we go ahead. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Beatrice. Surila.
Hello, everyone. I'm Cyrilla Chikamai, the Marketing and Social Media Manager for ArdhiHome, currently in Kenya. Yeah, I'm hoping to work with you all and build something that is good for all of us in Kenya. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Surila. So, guys, that is it. That is the dream team. If we go against this Team USA, man, we are crushing them for real, for real. But so we're going to hand off to Sheila now, so just to show you how we make trust real, so again, here's our Director of Licensing and Compliance. Sheila, please take it away.
Asante Kuya and karibu sana, everyone. Welcome. Again, I'll introduce myself. I'm Sheila Gishangi, the Director of Licensing and Compliance here at ArdhiHome. I'm a registered estate agent, ERB number 2396. I'll explain in a moment why that number matters and why you should be asking everyone in this industry for theirs. My job in one sentence is this. I own the framework behind every verification badge you see on our platform. When ArdhiHome says something is verified, I'm the person accountable for that word. Now, Kuya has shown you the problem. Fake titles, double zeals, off-plan projects that never break ground. And I saw your poll answers coming in. So let me give you the phrase that sums up everything I'm about to say. And if you grew up in Kenya, you know this one. Usigongwe na rela na mabeshte. Right. For those joining us who don't speak Shan or Kiswahili, kugonga na rela essentially means to get hit by the train. It's how we say, don't get played. Now, don't get conned. And namabeshte, not even by your besties. Here's the uncomfortable truth about diaspora property fraud. It's very often not a stranger. It's the cousin you sent money to, the childhood friend who knows a guy at the land's office, the broker your uncle vouched for. You're 8,000 miles away. You trusted the people closest to you. And years later, there's no plot, no title, no house, just stories. That's not a character flaw on your part. It's a systems failure. Trust is based on relationships alone. And you cannot survive trust and investment based on that relationship from those many miles away. Now, we are building a system and giving you something that is based on a process. And for the next 15 minutes, I'm going to walk you through that process from licensing, verification, compliance, and how we work with you from the very first search to your title deed. Now, I had mentioned EARB. I'm pretty sure most people don't know who license agents in Kenya. EARB is called Estate Agents Registration Board. It's the statutory body established in Kenya in 2014 under the Estate Agents Act to register and regulate all estate agents in Kenya. Think of it the way you think of lawyers. They have a bar for the advocates. Doctors, they have a medical board. If someone is practicing as an estate agent in Kenya and they're not in the ERB register, they're not a licensed profession. Full stop. And here's what that register gives you that a WhatsApp recommendation can never. One, identity. A registered agent is a known traceable person, a real name who has real qualifications, has gone through the training, and is on a public record. Two, standards. The agents are bound by professional conduct rules. There are things that you simply cannot do and keep your license. Three, recourse. In case a registered agent misbehaves, there's a board which has disciplinary powers that you can complain to. If your cousin or friend misbehaves, there's nowhere to go. That's the difference between a profession and a hustle. Right? I told you again, because I want you to normalize asking for it. Any agent in Kenya, anywhere you go, before you send a single shilling, please ask them, what's your EARB number? If the answer is a long story instead of a number, usigongwe. And here's the milestone I'm genuinely proud of. As ArdhiHome, the company itself is a registered member with EARB, not just individual agents on our team like myself. The institution holds a license. That means that the standards I'm describing, they're not one person's professionalism. They're also a company's legal obligation. We're regulated, we're accountable, and we can be held to account. That's exactly how it should be. But, and this is important, a license is not the flow. We need to also go through the vetting. You need to do your compliance. You need to check everything before you get that title deed. It doesn't tell you what an agent did last month. On ArdhiHome, we build on top of VRB. Let me show you how. We start with a verification process. What does verification mean? I'm sure you'll go on many platforms and see a verification badge. Is the property actually verified? This is what we do to ensure it's verified. Verification is abused in Kenyan real estate. You go see listings, there's a green tick on it. Does the property actually exist? Do the photos actually match what the property is showing? So when we say verified here, this is exactly the checks that we do. We have 4 checks. First, we check your agent identity. Are you verified? We cross-check 3 things on this: the national ID, KRA PIN, and ERB registration number. We don't just accept a number typed in on a form. We confirm the person, the taxpayer, and the license holder are the same human being. Why does that matter? Impersonation is real. Today, I could choose to go by Kuya Mashanja and have all his documentation and pose as him, right? But there are people out here who are trading on the names and license numbers of legitimate agents. This check is what stops them at our door. Second check is the listings integrity check. Before any listing goes live on ArdhiHome, we screen it. Is this plot already listed by someone else on the platform? We screen it. Do these photos actually belong to this property, or were they lifted from another development in a completely different country? We catch it. Does this project physically exist? We go on ground and check that the project is there. Do we have duplicates, phantom properties, recycled photos? They're all caught before they ever reach your screen. You should never be the one to detect these frauds. That's our job. The third check, we check professionals. Pre-vetted professionals. A property purchase isn't just an agent, it's an advocate. It's an advocate, a valuer, a surveyor. And if you're buying from Dallas, London, or Dubai, you can't exactly pop into an office in Upper Hill to size someone up. So every professional we introduce to has to be screened before they ever meet a buyer. You're never left Googling lawyer Nairobi, surveyor Nairobi. That's our job. Fourth, and the last check, and this is one of the most important checks. that we do as ArdhiHome. We check your conduct. We track your conduct. Verification isn't just a gate pass you pass through once. We keep an audit trail of behavior on the platform. So an agent who was clean at a sign up but starts cutting corners in the next, say, 6 months, we see it. Accountability that outlasts any single transaction is what we're watching for. So remember, that's the standard, not a badge you hand out, a standard we keep enforcing. The people who got hit by the relap didn't skip verification because they were careless. They skipped it because nobody had built it for them. Now, we have provided it to you. I'll also talk about compliance. Now, compliance is not just a checkbox. It's a business model. Skip to slide 15. I'll just touch on that before our legal team comes in as well.
Slide 15.
Now,
Slide 15.
15.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. So verification tells you who is on the platform. Compliance is what keeps them honest. And I want to be very direct about how we think about this. Most platforms treat compliance as just a checkbox, a page in the footer that the lawyers made them write. For us, it's the entire business model in 3 ways. 1, we have regulatory alignment. As a licensed agency, we enforce what EARB mandates, but at a platform scale and beyond the register. The regulator sets the floor. We build a house on it. 2, there are real consequences. Standards mean nothing without teeth. Agents and listings that violate our rules are removed, even when it costs us listings, even when it costs us money. Think about why a normal classified site cannot do that. Their revenue is the volume. Every listing they delete is income they lose. So bad actors, stay up. We made the opposite bet. Our willingness is to say no is the most valuable thing we own. 3, if you remember only one practical thing from tonight, make it this: your money protected. On ArdhiHome, no buyer ever sends money directly to a seller. Funds move through advocate-managed escrow, and they're released only when the completion conditions are met. Title is confirmed, consents are in place, transfer is ready. So let me give you the red flag in plain language. If anyone, may it be an agent, a developer, a broker, even your bestie, says to you, so you just M-Pesa the deposit to hold the unit, tutamalizana later. Let me translate it in English. Just send me a bit of the deposit, and then we'll finish it off later. That's your signal. Stop. Walk away. Your money should not ever move outside, a protected document and an escrow process. No exceptions. There's no paperwork. There's no due diligence. There's no verification. Don't send that money. Ensure you go through the due diligence process before you ever invest. No exceptions made. Not for family, not for friends, not for this deal is closing tomorrow. I know we have that catchphrase as agents. Yeah, this deal is closing tomorrow. I have another client who's ready to pay. Don't buy into that. Ensure you do your due diligence before you actually rush. That right there is the difference between a marketplace and a trust engine. We are offering a trust engine, not just a marketplace. Again, we hold your hand through the process. We work with you from search to title deed. And I want to close my section with a part I think that matters most emotionally, because I know what buying from abroad feels like through experiences from friends, colleagues, partners. It's not just a transaction. It's your parents' retirement home. It's the plot you promised yourself. It's legacy. So here's our promise. We will work with you throughout your legacy. Not just here's a listing, good luck. No. From your first question on our platform, on WhatsApp, through shortlisting, through due diligence, through escrow, all the way to the day that your title is registered in your name. This one team will carry you through. The one thread is going to make sure that you get to your journey. Dulce will show you what that exactly looks like, that process. You've been carrying this process alone from far away, relying on goodwill. You don't have to anymore. The verification is built. The compliance has teeth. That trailer has been fenced off. Now, I'd like to hand it over to the next speaker. I think I've spoken about it enough, and you can hear more.
Awesome, Sheila. I mean, tough act to follow. I'm glad, you just set the bar pretty high for Ben. So, Ben, Christine, if we could go back to slide, I think 13. So everybody, again, thank you so much, Sheila. I think you've done a great job of explaining the process that we go through behind the scenes to make sure that everything on our platform is secure. Every interaction with our buyers is going to be protected and very much cared for. And so our main goal, honestly, me personally, is to make sure that I provide the most up to like the best experience for you guys. I think Africans people always, kind of downplay how, downplay Africans, our processes don't exist, et cetera, et cetera. But, for us, we want to make sure we create a company that, is worthy of, kind of rivaling some of our counterparts here in the West. And so right now, without further ado, I think a lot of you guys probably wanted to hear a little bit more from, Mr. Wakili here, Mr. Ben, to kind of walk us through just how to legally protect your investment, your properties. And so Ben is a practicing conveyancing attorney. Met him in person as well in Kenya. They have a wonderful operation in Nairobi. And you can opine a little bit more on that as well. And so again, before we get started, I think Ben, you'll appreciate this. This is not legal advice. You see that on on YouTube all the time. For any one specific situation, we just want you to kind of, come in, provide us some really high level, and then of course, if folks have more questions, more than happy to answer any of those. So then please jump right in, a quick intro, and then, maybe I can be the moderator here and ask you a few questions that, may be good for the team and the group here. And then, of course, we'll allow them to provide any feedback or any questions from that end. So thank you for joining us, Ben.
Yeah, good evening, everyone. I suppose good morning for those who are across the other side of the planet. I hope you can hear me well.
We can hear you clearly, so loud and clear.
Excellent, fabulous. Just by way of introduction, my name is Ben Moke. I'm an advocate at Mamicha & Company Advocates. By way of background in respect of the firm, we've been practicing in the space of real estate and conveyancing. They call the practice of preparing real estate documentation is called conveyancing, and we've been in that space since 1992. Not myself personally, I think I was born shortly thereafter, but the team that we have has been in that space since 1992. And the benefit of having a fund that's had that long-standing experience is the registry interaction that you've had means that you're one familiar with a lot of the registrars who are in those places like Nairobi, Thika, Kiambu, Kajiado, Machakos, Kisumu, Mombasa. You know who was where when. So if a title is purportedly coming from this registrar and he was in a different registry at that period in time, that's something that's easily flagged by an institution that's been there for that period of time. So it gives you a little comfort for knowing when we're saying something, it's because we have background in the space. The additional benefit that we also have in the space is that we're on bank panels. So KCB, Equity Bank, Stanbic Bank, Family Bank, Bank of Africa, National Bank of Kenya, UNFCU, HFCB. These are all tier 1, tier 2 banking institutions, and oftentimes purchaser will find that the property they're looking to purchase is actually loaned to a bank. I give them the sensation of I should touch this, something that gives you an extra level of comfort.
Ben. Yeah, your audio went a little bit, it kind of became a little bit worse. I'm not sure if it's like it moved a little bit from your ear, but the audio just
yes. Am I coming across now?
Perfect. Continue.
Excellent. Yes. So you might find that the property you're looking to purchase has been used as security for a loan to help the developer build a structure itself or the houses. That might give people some sense of concern, but maybe it should give you an extra level of comfort because the bank's due diligence is actually quite robust. So by the time that they've chosen a property to secure their facility, it gives you an extra level of comfort knowing that at least the due diligence was done to the satisfaction of a financial institution. So the benefit that we have sitting on those panels is that we can tell which properties the banks are comfortable enough to touch, which then can be structured to make sure that each individual homeowner gets their property separate and unrelated to the facility that the developer's taken on. So yes, that's just by way of background in respect of Mamicha & Company. And we're quite looking forward to working with the team at ArdhiHome to make sure those who are abroad can develop a sense of trust about the process and the parties that are at play here in Nairobi. I think Sheila's done a really good job in terms of elaborating on what steps need to be taken. and really appreciate the fact that they have these professional ethics elements that are quite enshrined within the organization. So it's quite an exciting prospect.
Thank you so much, Ben. And Christine, we can maybe stop the screen share for a few moments here because definitely want to just have a conversation with Ben. Kind of ask him a few of these questions because I know Ben, we already had this conversation with you, but I think it would be great if the audience here can kind of hear just from a lawyer's perspective. My first question to you would be, before I commit to buying a property, what documents should be verified? And then, how do you guys confirm that the seller is actually genuine?
That's a very good question. I think Sheila captured it really well. The one thing that you always want to do in any transaction is engage professionals, right? You should never be engaging between individuals or purported landowners. You always refer yourself to their counsel. So you say, we've appointed this lawyer to engage in this transaction for us. Please deal with them exclusively. The challenge you have when you try and do it yourself is you're unable to do a lot of the background due diligence that law firms have to do. The moment you engage lawyers and the lawyers are both engaging each other, there's a professional obligation to disclose any material facts that have been brought in. So the first step, as always, you've identified the property, you like how it looks, or at least the pitch that's been made to you is quite good. Engage a lawyer first and ask them who their representative is, so at least you can now start that process. From there, now the lawyers engage in also as pre-contractual due diligence. Sheila captured it really well. Don't pay anything until the professionals have engaged and given you that level of comfort. However, due diligence report, status updates, search results, and the necessary pre-contractual conditions. If you're unable to get due diligence, don't sign on anything and don't pay any purchase price. It's not worth the risk. So step one is really engage a professional.
Absolutely. I think that's awesome. That's a great answer. And yeah, I think, Ben, I told you my story about how, a lawyer essentially kind of saved my practice back home. So I think you guys are extremely critical. And, I would advise anybody, if you're buying any piece of land in Kenya or property or anything of that nature, please make sure you have a good trusted lawyer. Because we know that, lawyers, even finding you, Ben, for us, it's like finding credible lawyers because we know that lawyers are also a little bit corrupt in Kenya. And so it's like, how do you find the right people? And that's why Sheila said, we kind of walk you through all these processes, So for us, Mamicha would be our preferred law firm to work with because they kind of work through everything as well. It's not just property and law, they could do real estate planning for you and a few other things that are, legal in Kenya. And so my next question, Ben, would be, if I'm buying from abroad, how does the title search give me confidence the property is legally clear and ready for purchase? Because we know you can have fake titles, all this manner of things, but from your end as a lawyer in the due diligence process, what are some of those assurances you can provide for the buyer?
That's a very good question. And I think a lot of people fall under the presumption that unfortunately as such is sufficient due diligence. That's just one facet of due diligence. One always needs to look into not just the property itself, but also the one who's purportedly selling that property. If it's a company, for example, you need to establish, one, does that company exist? Is there a certificate of incorporation, and then memorandum and articles of association that allow that company to sell this property to you? Are they in the real estate space? Is there any litigation against them? One, for being unable to provide the properties that they have purportedly tried to sell. Is someone trying to sue them for properties they're selling that are not belonging to them? Are there any insolvency orders that may stop them from being able to action the intended contract? So search is just one facet, but you need to look at the whole transaction as a whole. Who are you contracting with? Is there a bank charge on that search? You need to engage the bank and find out perhaps the loan is non-performing, right? And there's litigation that's ongoing at the court registry to make sure that the bank can sell that property onwards, meaning that the vendor actually doesn't have the capacity to sell you that property. So the search is just one facet, right? But again, capturing the professional engagement, you need to have a robust due diligence report that covers the vendor's particulars, property's particulars. Are there any certificates and approvals that ought to have been obtained for that property to exist as it is? How did the vendor come into its possession? Do you have the transfer instrument that gave them that property? All of that should form a part of the due diligence, so at least you get what is known as the root of the title. Right, the search will show you who the current owner is and if there's any encumbrances on that property. Encumbrances, of course, being a mortgage. But to get to the root of the title, you really need to understand how that title came into being. And if that question can't be answered all the way back, you really need to take a step back and really ask yourself, will that question be raised in 10 to 15 years when the original owner comes? The other thing you also need to keep an eye out is for the probate registry. You tend to find, for example, some person purports to have obtained this property from their parents, but they have siblings. Were there any siblings who are entitled to obtain that property by virtue of the succession processes that was underwent? So you really need to look into not just the search, but also how that property transferred from one generation to the next. The search won't show you that, but going further into the root of the title will. So that's why when you're engaging a professional first, you just really need to elaborate that you would like to get to the root of this title, establish whether it has the necessary approvals, are they in compliance? If it's a lease, are they in compliance with the terms of that lease? Such that if you move in 5 years, they say, actually, you were supposed to have done this, and I only bought this property last year. So there's a lot of things outside of the steps which you need to look into. So that's just one of them. It's good to have. Please don't sign anything before you do have a search, but that should only guide you in respect of what other questions you should be asking about the property.
Mm-hmm. Man, I was talking to one of our some folks, some peers, in the industry, and I said, you definitely need to do as such. You go and talk to the chief, talk to the neighbors. This guy will tell you, this one tree here used to be part of my land, but this guy's encroached, So it's like you really want to do a lot of due diligence, take a lot of time to ask those questions, understand, the family history of that particular piece of land, especially for properties back in Mashinani, and so I think those ones are a little bit more contentious, and we have to take care of those with a little care when you're buying properties, back home, like in Western or other parts of Kenya that are outside of Nairobi. And I know in the interest of time, I did have a few more questions for you, but I suppose then when it comes to, I think the money is super important in the whole process, right? So how do the sales agreement and advocate manage escrow protect both buyer and seller during the transaction? Because I think we in the United States are very much used to the escrow system. If you're purchasing a home, you kind of deposit some money in escrow. That's where it kind of just sits, until you kind of, sign the title over, and then boom, seller gets their money, you kind of get your title, you move forward. But in Kenya, it is a little bit different. And as Sheila touched on, we really want to create a system where that is the norm. If folks don't want to work within this particular system, that's perfectly fine. We will let the buyer know, and then, of course, they can make decisions on themselves. But, from your perspective, what does that process look like, the escrow management system, and, how you've kind of done it in the past for your clients?
That's a very good question. And I think maybe the way we distinguish it here is between escrow and stake. And allow me to come back to the distinction between those two. Just to go back, I think Sheila's really touched on a lot of really important things, so I'm going to keep referencing you, Sheila. But she mentioned something about licensing and professionals who are in good standing, and that's really important one when you're engaging professionals. Like we have mentioned, not every lawyer is a good lawyer, and you tend to find that those who are not in good standing are those who have not treated escrow funds in the way that they should be treated. And the reason I come back to that is because in Kenya we have two mechanisms. One, oftentimes you'll find if there's a transaction between two parties, the vendor's advocate might request the deposit to be paid into the vendor's advocate's bank account to be held on what's known as a stakeholder basis pending completion, right? And what happens there is the purchaser's advocate, now you yourself, who's being represented, would be out of control of that deposit. Now, should the transaction fail by virtue of the purchaser failing to meet the terms and conditions, that 10% is ceded as damages for the vendor having not been able to complete the transaction by virtue of the purchaser either not being able to proceed by paying the balance of purchase price or whatever the purchaser was unable to do. So stake becomes a really important part of how you transact in Kenya. And then the other way, of course, is the escrow, which is where both the vendors and the purchasers' advocates create an account in a bank, and they both hold it in that account until certain terms and conditions have been met, at which point it's released to the vendor themselves. Now, that one is the preferred, safest mechanism, and I'm glad that ArdhiHome decided to go that avenue. What it will do is limit the number of properties that you can gain access to, because most times you find the vendor will want their lawyer to sit on the funds. So at least they release what's known as the transfer instrument. So at least that way, when they're handing over the potential to transfer their property, they have some assurance that their lawyer at least is sitting on their funds. So when you're engaging a professional, one, you really need to speak to those who are in the legal sphere to understand, do these lawyers have a good reputation for paying when it's time and the amount that's required at that point in time. So one, check with the Law Society of Kenya, which is the professional body that governs our professions. Two, confirm that there's a lawyer in good standing. They don't have any cases as against them. If they do, please do not engage until that matter is resolved. Because if it's gone to the extent to which this proceeding is against you, the law society, then at least there's a question to answer. So when engaging professionals, make sure that they have that good standing behind them. And then two, when they're now putting those funds into either a stake or into an escrow agreement, make sure the terms for that escrow are really set out quite well. And that comes down to the agreement that you need to make sure you keep an eye on, which is what Queer was referencing in respect of the sale agreement. By the time you're paying that 10%, it should be against execution of that agreement that your lawyer has negotiated for you to make sure you're as protected as you can from the moment those funds leave your custody.
Wonderful, wonderful. And I know, again, interest of time, Ben, one last time, if there was one thing you want every diaspora buyer watching tonight to remember, what would that be?
Robust due diligence, right? I'd say robust due diligence. And I think I shared something with ArdhiHome about what that looks like.
Yeah.
Because I think the Kenyan courts have really been quite firm in respect of an innocent purchaser. You really have to have fulfilled a lot of conditions for you to get any equity from the courts. And they expect you to conduct robust due diligence to really get to the root of the title. By the time you decide to sign off on that agreement and proceed to pay that purchase price, you really have to make sure you've understood how this title came into being, all the neighbors who are around. And I think we have brought up a really great practical example about speaking to people on the ground. What do they know about this property? What do they know about the people who used to own this property? Do they know the ones who used to own it before then? Is there a place that leaks water? When it rains, does it gather? Those are things you can't get from a search. There are things you can go and do ground due diligence and really get a firm understanding of what you intend to acquire. So I really encourage everyone to make sure, one, you do really robust due diligence, two, you have eyes on the ground.
Wonderful, wonderful, Ben. And before we let you go, man, I definitely want to say thank you, but let's allow the team, if anybody has a couple of questions, obviously, we have the professional here with us today, and of course, Ben will be available after this call in terms of if you need access to him, of course, reach out to myself or my team. We'll be able to hook you up with Ben, but just in the call right now, does anybody have any particular questions as it pertains to just the legal aspect of purchasing property in Kenya that Ben may be able to answer for us before we allow him to step away? So we have a question in the chat. Do you assist with tax or regulatory requirements, Ben?
Excellent. In respect of purchases, definitely. And that's a really good question because there's a lot of taxes involved in acquisition and selling of property, for example. So when you're buying a property, you really need to keep an eye on something known as stamp duty. Right? So stamp duty in Kenya is fixed at a standard 4%, and people always assume it's a 4% that you are against what you've agreed with the seller. But there's a valuation process that's conducted by the government, and a government value is assigned to each transfer transaction. What the valuer does is they go onto the property and they use parameters and comparators from the area and the region to establish exactly how much this property is worth. And from that government value, they charge you 4% of it so that the transfer itself can be effected. So if you don't have 4% of what the government valuation will be, then naturally the transaction would end. And it's important to make sure that one, the mechanism through which you pay is in line with the system that exists at the moment. It's known as ArdhiSASA. So you need to have an ArdhiSASA ID in order to pay taxes. And if you're not in Kenya, if you don't have a KRA PIN, it's not something you're going to be able to do. So there's an element of complying to the tax requirements in Kenya for you to be able to buy property. So if you do open a Kenya tax revenue account, then of course, naturally, there's that daily obligation to file your returns. If you're not earning money in Kenya, that means you're probably filing nil returns in respect of your income in Kenya. So tax becomes quite a material consideration to have in your mind as you now consider buying property in Kenya. Naturally, for those who are green card holders, there's also an element of having a double taxation. So that's also something to consult with your US tax consultants on the same. But there's definitely a tax consideration when it comes to acquisition of property in Kenya. It's a very good question.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you. Yeah, I think, some of us are definitely the tax man, as they say, they're two things that are absolute in life, taxes and debt. So, Taxman definitely wants his money. But if you don't have any other questions, we can definitely allow Ben to go. If folks on the team, I mean on the call, have some other questions. Oh, one more, Ben. All right. Hey, if I buy a
Mm.
property while away, can the property have my name on the title? I'm
Yes,
assuming.
naturally.
Mhm.
Yes. Presumably you're living abroad. Again, this only comes down to two things. One, do you have a carry pin? Do you have a local ID or passport? Now, if you don't have a local ID or passport, the challenge with buying property in Kenya is you'd have to explain the tax authority in what capacity you're acquiring property in Kenya. So if you do have a carry pin, yes, it very much can be done. The important thing to do there is to make sure that after the process is complete, your lawyer sends you a post-registration search to confirm that your name has been listed on the title. Because not every title is reissued with your name on it. Some of them have entries that show the history of the property from those who acquired it before you. So it really depends on the type of title.
Ben, your audio, your mic moved away a little bit again. One more time there.
Oh, no.
Yeah, the
Okay.
last couple of questions. I mean sentences.
Where did you lose me? Yes, it depends on the type of title that you have. But again, it's something that you have to make sure you touch on with your lawyer. What type of title am I expecting once this transaction is complete? Because some of them won't have your name on it, but will have your name listed as the last transaction on the title. Others will be printed afresh with your name on it. But as long as you have that carry pin, then you'll be able to get it together with your ID.
Awesome, awesome. Thank you, sir. And again, chat, if you guys have any more questions, put them in the chat. I know we are definitely running low on time and we really respect everybody's time here. So, Ben, I just really want to thank you for taking time today, spending this hour with us. I know it is on a Saturday evening. You probably have 100 other things that you will be doing, but spending time with us is much appreciated, and looking forward to partnering with you. I'm sure we'll get more questions to you, and then I'm sure again, as folks have more of this legal questions, as we've talked about, you're a preferred law firm, so we'll definitely reach out to you and kind of share those contacts, and you can service the client. So thank you again so much for your time today, and thank you for participation from the group as well.
Thanks, everyone. It's lovely to meet you all. Have a good evening.
Thank you, Sarah. So we will jump to our second last speaker, Duce. Uh, please take it away, Sarah, or just, how ArdhiHome actually supports buyers. And then we have a special treat for you guys towards the end of the call with Superior Home. So Superior Home is one of our in fact, it is our first developer partner that, saw the vision for ArdhiHome and, signed a contract with us to kind of partner with us. And so Superior Homes, towards the end of the call, we'll just do a small teaser to kind of, talk about their properties, what they have. And then, in our next forum, we will actually just provide majority of it to Superior Homes to kind of talk about, their achievements and what they have in the market right now. So DT, please take it away, sir.
Yeah, thank you, Kuya. Thank you, Ben. Thank you, Sheila. My name is Dusa Tengu. I am CTO and co-founder here at ArdhiHome. And by now you've heard why trust matters, how verifying listings works, how the legal process protects you. And so probably the next question is, what actually happens if I decide to buy through ArdhiHome? So if Christine, you can help me move to the next slide. So let me walk you through what that journey looks like. Imagine you are sitting in Dallas, London, Toronto, PA. You've worked really hard. You saved a lot of money and you're ready to invest back home. The challenge isn't finding property anymore. It is knowing who to trust and how to navigate the process. And I know Sheila actually really hit the point home with that. So that's why RD Home really exists, to walk you through that journey. So our goal is simple. We walk you from the very first question to when you actually receive your title deed. And we've actually done very, very deep research of how that process should be and how it should work. So the journey starts with exploration. You can browse verified listing on ArdhiHome. If you've never been to that website, please, you can go to ardhihome.com, learn about different neighborhoods, compare opportunities, and understand the market. Because we've already done the initial verification, you're not wasting time sorting through questionable listings because everything on the platform is actually verified. The second step here is asking questions. Whether you reach out through WhatsApp or our inquiry platform, you're directly connected to a support team that is made of real human beings. You're not talking to a chatbot or, a salesperson who just really wants to sell you stuff. No, you're talking to real people who care about you, people who have also been through the process of buying property back home. So maybe you're not sure whether you want to buy land or you want to buy a home. Maybe you're comparing Nairobi to Kiambu or to Mombasa. Maybe you simply don't know where to begin. That's perfectly okay. We're here to answer your questions without any pressure. And the next thing that comes here is reviewing your options. This is where we help you compare opportunities based on your goals, your budget, and long-term plans. Sometimes the best advice we can give you is buy this property. And sometimes we can say, wait. And sometimes we can even tell you, walk away from this one. And so we make sure that our goal is not simply to close the transaction, but it is to help you make the right decision based on your goals. Once you've identified the right opportunity, we move you to connecting with the right professionals, just as you've seen on the call today. So we introduce you to licensed advocates, valuers, surveyors, financial partners, and other experts who have been carefully vetted. Instead of trying to build your own team from overseas, you have access, ready access to professionals that have already been vetted and professionals that you can trust. And finally, we guide you through the closing of the transaction. From due diligence and advocate managed escrows all the way through registration and transfer of ownership, we remain alongside you, literally holding your hand throughout the process. So you always know where you are, what's happening, and what still needs to be done. That's really why ArdhiHome exists, and that's where we bring the difference. We're not simply a website where buyers and sellers meet. We're not simply a listing platform. We are a trusted guide that helps diaspora buyers navigate one of the biggest financial decisions they'll ever make. So, in closing, this is what I'll say. As an RD home buyer, there are three promises you can count on. And Kuya already touched on this. You'll always have a real person to support you. The second thing, you'll always receive verified information and honest guidance. The third is that you'll always be connected to trusted professionals who help protect your investment. Whether you're ready to buy in the next few months or simply beginning your research, we'll meet you where you are. No pressure, no shortcuts. Just a transparent process designed to help you buy property in Kenya with confidence. So thank you so much for being here today. And I want us to move directly to the Q&A session.
Absolutely, absolutely. Before we do that, do say again, just a quick poll from the group, when it comes to where are we with our buyer journey, as in some folks on the call actually thinking about buying some property back home in Kenya. If so, we'd love to definitely understand, where you are. That way we know exactly how to provide some of that value. So if you have a couple of seconds here to just answer the questions, be more than happy to take that poll in and then move into the Q&A. And we hope that, we can get much participation from the group as well. So we'll run this for just another 10 seconds or so, and then we can close it out and go to the Q&A, and then we'll provide the floor to Superior Homes to close it out and kind of whet our palate for next week. Well, not next week, but the second webinar in 2 weeks from today. Awesome. Wonderful, wonderful. So looks like, we got some interesting results here, but, some folks are definitely in the market. And so we'll definitely touch base with you guys after the call, and, looking forward to hopefully working with you. So we can jump right into the Q&A session. Again, feel free to pop a question in the chat or come off mute, ask some questions. Be more than happy to, obviously engage with you guys. That way we can just, again, be able to answer any questions that you may have about the platform or our process, or our partnerships, and then we can take it to Superior Homes. Any takers? Any takers? Okay, we got a chat. Which part of the process are handled through the platform versus offline? Ooh, and how are contracts signed? How are payments handled? So the first part, when it comes to which part of the process is handled. So online right now, we do have like the web form, So on the platform, it is more about showcasing the property itself, answering all the questions about the listing, because we know that, you as a buyer are not on the ground. And so we want you to be able to have all the details about the property. So you can go on the platform, DT said, ardhihome.com, have a look at a particular listing. It will tell you the location. It will tell you what's around that location. It will tell you, some different neighborhoods. We have a bunch of information on the platform where you can learn about different neighborhoods within Nairobi or Kenya. And then from that point on, if you do like a particular property based on the pricing and your, wherever you are in the buying process, you can reach out to us in two different ways. You can reach to us through WhatsApp, which would come directly to the team here, and then we can set up a consultation for you. Or you can fill out a web form providing, a little bit more details about, all those things in terms of where you are, the property you're interested in, etc. And then that will automatically send you to our Calendly link where you can set up a meeting for us. That way we can make sure that we understand exactly what your needs are. And so our promise to you is to make sure we turn around in less than 24 hours, that way we can be able to service all your needs. And contracts, we will definitely make sure we have our lawyers or your lawyer of choice, quite honestly. Of course, we'll provide like Mamita and Co. in terms of like a preference. Make sure that, before you sign anything with any developer, any agent on the ground, that you work with a verified lawyer. They go through all the paperwork so they can make sure that you understand the entire process before submitting to anything or committing to anything in particular. And then again, the payments for now, we want them to go through escrow. So we are working on different partnerships with different banks as well. And so currently, as it stands, when I did my transaction back home in Kenya, the lawyer escrowed the money for me. And so that way it's not going to the agent or going to the developer. So it's kind of sitting in a third party situation, which in this case for me was the lawyer. And that way, if the transaction kind of falls apart, you get your money back and you don't lose anything. So I hope that answers those questions. Can I? Yes, you can. Awesome. Thank you. And yes, you can absolutely buy property if you're not from Kenya. Sheila, what is the distinction between like the leasehold and the freehold? I think if you're not Kenyan, you can buy what, leasehold only, or I forget. I know there's a distinction if you're, I think you're aware of that.
Yeah.
So
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, go
if
ahead.
you're not Kenyan, you're able to buy leasehold properties. You're not able to buy freehold properties. What you only need is a good advocate who's going to register you with a KRA PIN and your documentation from whichever country you're from. So you just need a good advocate, a tax. Most advocates come off as tax representatives. So they register you with a KRA PIN, and then you're good to go with all the other documentation. But yes, you can only buy leasehold properties, not freehold properties.
Thank you, Sheila. All right. Any other questions? Excellent. I know we're over time. We can definitely jump over to. Go ahead, Sheila.
I have
Let
a
me just
question.
clarify.
Go ahead.
Sorry, before you go, Arnold, Juliet asked again, what does that mean? Freehold means that you have absolute ownership of the land for an unlimited amount of years. Leasehold means that you're given the property under a lease of maximum term of 99 years, which you renew then after 99 years. So most properties in Kenya, in Nairobi and the metropolitan areas, they're leasehold. Most properties in the outskirts of Nairobi, say Kakamega, and areas in the outskirts, because they were zoned for agricultural use back in the day, they're freehold. I hope that clarifies that.
I have a question.
Yes. Fire away.
Yeah, I think two questions. Of one, when you started, you mentioned how you're working with the property, and you said the problems you're having are basically based in Africa when it comes to property being people being conned property and all that. My question would be, now that this is your first stage and we have people who are not Kenyans here, are you intending to do the same for people who are not in Kenya? Number two would be, if I have a personal individual person, I know he wants to sell his property, but I'm not sure how the property is. Are you able to do, can I introduce him to you, or are you guys able to do due diligence at a fee for me so that I can know it's in good, I'm buying the right property?
Those are great questions. I should say, cool, out of respect. So absolutely, absolutely. I think the we'll start with the second question first. Yes. So when it comes to our due diligence, so Sheila is again our director of compliance, right? And so what Sheila would do in that case would get all the details, because we do have some folks who reach out to us who want to sell property, right? And so Sheila would get all the details for that particular property. She will go and do a land search on that particular property as well. And then, essentially go on the ground as well, kind of do some of that soft due diligence to make sure that, these titles is not fake, that we're able to actually, proceed with letting you know that, hey, Arnold, this actually is, it's legitimate based on our particular search. But they'll still, when a buyer comes forward, they'll still have to go through the same situation when it comes to doing a full due diligence, getting a green card of that particular property. But yes, we can kind of qualify the property for you to say, hey, we think this is a good one, and we can actually now list it for you on the platform. And then the first question, I wrote down yes, but I forget what the question was. So if you could remind me, or if the team can remind me what the question was, and then we can answer you.
The question is, when you started, actually you mentioned that we have a lot of uh, land issues within Africa.
Yes,
You didn't
yes,
mention Kenya.
yeah.
And the thing is, having people who are not Kenyans on the platform
Yep.
and they're having through the same problems in their land, are you anticipating to maybe get into in a future or whatever to get into helping them also if this platform is going to work very well for us in Kenya?
Yes, yes, absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, actually, right now, Uncle, as Sheila touched on, it's actually very easy to buy property in Kenya as a non-Kenyan citizen. All you have to do is literally get that KRA pin, because the taxman wants to get paid. And so we see cases obviously of a lot of investment from outside of Kenya with non-Kenyan citizens. And so all you need to do, actually, Sheila, you know what? Maybe you can explain, but I believe you can get like a limited liability company and then get your KRA pin and actually buy property under that particular company. And you would most likely have to use cash as opposed to other things like loans to purchase that property. So it is quite an easy process for non-Kenyan citizens to buy property. And yes, we would love to service everybody, honestly. Like, our goal is to provide, because Kenya is a hotspot for technology right now. The UN is moving to Kenya very soon, the headquarters. We have a lot of investment happening in Kenya. So you do see a lot of foreign investors in Kenya. And when you go visit Kenya right now, you see a lot of foreigners in Kenya, Chinese folks, obviously white folk, a lot of African Americans are thinking about moving back home in Kenya. And yeah, so that to answer your question in a long-winded way, yes, we absolutely will service non-US citizens as well. Awesome. Thank you. Thank you. If we don't have any other questions, we can jump to Superior Homes Faith. Sorry to keep you waiting, but as they say, save the best for last. So we'd love to just get a small, as I said, wetting of the palate just about Superior Homes. We know that from obviously working with you guys, you've been in the industry for over 20 years now. You've done amazing master plan communities like Green Park. And so I've been to Kenya, and so would really love for you to just provide a little bit of a tease of what Superior Homes is all about, and then how you and us are working together right now to provide great services and great homes to our clientele here in the diaspora.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Priya and the ArdhiHome team for this opportunity. I hope I'm audible enough. My name is Faith Mutio, and I'm the assistant head of sales for Superior Homes, Kenya. Then that we will dive into more details in the next session. Today will just be a brief. And so maybe some of you have heard about our flagship project. Firstly, we've been in the market, or rather in the industry, for over 20 years. Last year, we were celebrating 20 years in the Kenyan market. And flagship project was Green Park Estate. This is an estate on Mombasa Road in Nairobi. And maybe most of you probably have heard about it. So it's 170 acres. We've done over 700 units, all sold out and occupied. So we basically focus on open plan gated communities, and we're the leading East Africa's open plan gated communities. And we're looking to create master planned estates. That's our what we focus on, delivering quality and long-term value. Like you've had, flagship projects is 170 acres with over 700 units, standalone units, not apartments. And so that's our focus really. As you can see, the first project indicated is Pazuri at Vipingo. We're also at the Kenyan coast, but before I go to the coast, let me mention what we have in Nairobi. So we have Green Park, but that's sold out. And then we have Kenya Plains. This is in Machakos County, but quite close to Nairobi Metropolitan, where we're doing a similar project to Green Park, where we have maisonettes, we have villas, and self-built plots as well, where you can buy a plot and build on your own, although controlled. And then also within Nairobi, but in Kiambu County, we have the orchards at Northlands. Northlands is a city coming up. It's along Thika Road opposite Kenyatta University. And those environs, I'm just mentioning the university because I assume it might be popular. So the orchard is also a pretty new project. We ground broke this year, and quite good uptake with phase 1 and phase 2 almost sold out. And we're actually the only developer inside the Northland city. And then those are the projects in Nairobi. So Green Park, Lukenya Plains, and the orchards. We're also venturing into the coastal parts of Kenya, which is the northern coast around Kilifi. So in Kilifi, we have 2 projects. The first one is called Pazuri at Vipingo. Pazuri is a Swahili name to mean something nice. As you can see from the photo snippet, it looks quite nice. And these are basically holiday homes, or if you live at the coast, there we actually have residents who live there on a day-to-day, but they work perfectly for holiday homes. You can see they have flat roof, got a range of 2, 3, 4 bedrooms, and even 5 bedrooms. Very beautiful community, 100 acres. We've sold out phase 1, 2, and 3. We're now going into phase 4. Now, the other project still at the coast is, and still at Kilifi Coast, just before you get to Kilifi, is called Sunset Creek. As you can see from the photo, we're right at Kilifi Creek. The creek is just where the ocean drops. And Sunset Creek is a beautiful project where we'll have over 200 plots, quarter-acre plots. We call them self-build plots, where you buy the plot and develop it on your own. However, the entire project is controlled, and it's also fully serviced. Fully serviced, I mean you will get cable roads, power, electricity direct to your plot. And when I say the plots are, that's for fully serviced. And when I say the plots are controlled in terms of development, you will not worry what your neighbor is going to put up. So you have to submit your plans to our internal architect team, or rather the design team. We approve those plans before construction is done. So we control end to end, and we have our team on the ground to ensure that whatever you submitted is actually what you're constructing. So nonetheless, the controlled developments, master plan community developments, with plenty of amenities in cutting across all of these. And this is a very nice platform, ArdhiHome, and we're looking to partner and help each other as we help our clients. We have a very big diaspora base from the UK, the US, UAE, very a good number, about 40 or so % of our buyers are actually diaspora. And we thank Earth for this platform as we look into helping the buyers to settle and find very good homes here in Kenya. And so I think with the next session, we'll dive into details, into the house types, what's the differences, and then maybe we can take questions from there.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Faith, for taking time again outside of your day-to-day. And again, to everybody here, Superior Homes have been really, really great. Been to, again, a few of the establishments, very, very well done. And one of those guys where, you just know that if you work with them, that they will deliver for sure. So thank you so much again. And I know we are way over time, so I think, one thing tonight or this evening, this afternoon for some of us, this morning, please go to ardhihome.com and, kind of just start exploring some of those verified listings. Yes, we do not have the entirety of Kenya covered, but we will slowly get there. And so if you see something in the region in which you are interested in and we do not have it on the platform, feel free to give us a holler. We have a WhatsApp link, little button on there on the platform, and we'll be able to kind of answer any questions for you and say, hey, if you're looking for something here, we have a good network of realtors and developers where we can actually just go to them and kind of ask them, hey, do you have anything in this region? Do you know any trusted partners? And then we do some of that legwork for you before we give you anything solid. And so please watch out for in your inbox for a due diligence guide that we'll send out immediately after this. And then I know some folks have a couple of questions, so we can follow up after the fact. And we want you to know that your land, it's your legacy. We want to make sure that it's always verified. And I want to say, asante sana to everybody. And I will see you next time. And please share if you found any value from this particular podcast. Podcast, this particular webinar. Share with your circles. Hopefully we continue to grow this community and follow our social media as well. But thank you so much, everybody, for your time today. We really truly appreciate it.
Yeah, and just a quick add. In case you have properties and you want to partner with us and you're selling, please reach out as well on info@ardhi.com and we shall get back to you and we'll arrange those partnership and arrangements. So thank you, everyone, and have a wonderful evening, morning, afternoon, everywhere.
Thank you so much, guys. God bless you guys. Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye, everybody.